everyone, Scrappy Kathy here with another installment of Challenge Accepted. This week is going to be a particularly tough one for me. It takes me way out of my comfort zone. First of all, I'm doing a challenge for Scraptastic Inspiration, and it's called a Scrappy Basket challenge. It's going on the entire month of June, and we have teams of 5. Each of us comes up with an item for the basket, and I've got to add one that I couldn't remember last night when I was filling this out. And we use those items on our layouts, and the additional complication this week is we have this sketch. Now, normally, I use a sketch, and most challenges instruct you to use a sketch as inspiration for your layout. So you look at it, pick a few elements that you like, say the vertical title and the 2 equal size photos, the tag at the back, the clusters around, and maybe the mixed media on the background. So you'd pick a few of those things, and then you do your own interpretation of those. Our instructions on this one are to replicate the layout as closely as possible, and to complicate that, it's a digital layout, so it has lots of layers that you can point and click and drag in and resize and recolor and so forth. But we're to do it physically, obviously. So this is the sketch. The first thing I did was take measurements so that I could get the proportions of the pieces of paper. We are allowed to use our own color schemes, so my color scheme will not look anything like this, but hey, I did find a raccoon. So good on me. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do is start with a Vicky Booten mixed media pad page. This is hers, except for the kind of brown, the walnut stain spots there. Most of this is going to get covered up, but it has a lot of the colors of the papers I'm using, and I'll show you those in a minute. But what I did was I went through and took measurement. I printed the layout 12 by 12. Then the measurements could then hold true for what I needed for a 12 by 12 layout. So I knew, for example, that the photo mat together is about 3 by 4. The photo itself is 2 3/4 by 3 1/2. So I printed and trimmed them that way. I was able to measure the length of the arrow, and lo and behold, I had an arrow die. Was able to cut that. You know, you can kind of see here's an arrow, a star, and a circle. Looks like it might be bright, maybe glitter around there. There's a brad there, or a piece of flare. Here's a brad or flare and a button. An arrow here, which actually is the bottom. In my case, it's the bottom of a hexagon. A couple word strips, the vertical title, one open word, one closed. I've got a tag with a different kind of twine from what was used here. I identified areas where there may be stamps. I actually did not use any stamps here. I'm using something else to kind of accomplish what might have been accomplished with stamps. We'll see how successful that turns out to be. So first thing I'm going to do is put this aside, and I'm going to work on the mixed media. And I can see from this that the title is going to go down here, so I have to leave room for that. So about where this blue starts is where I'm going to start the mixed media. And the mixed media is going to include decoupaging, some newsprint here, and I'm gonna I've got a bit of texture that's visible here. I'm going to accomplish that texture on my page by some folded pieces of that same tissue paper. And then there's another area where there's texture kind of up here. There's some here. I'm actually going to accomplish something here. I don't want this area to be too busy, so I have a different idea. It looks here like they used a stencil and did some inking around it, or used an overlay there. That's how you could accomplish that, and then did the text over that. I'm going to use a bit of black and white striped paper to balance some that I'm going to use over in this area. So, but in the meantime, this will kind of go up in this area, and then I'll take care of the texture down here some other way. So, the first thing I'm going to do is decoupage this onto there by using some matte medium. But first of all, before we do any of that, I'm going to show you these tools that I used. I've made up my embellishment clusters prior to this. I've printed my photos and have the photo mat ready there. I've cut the pieces of paper to size, cut out the tag. I've inked the edges. I noticed in the layout here that edges are either distressed or inked, and I did one or the other. And my very back piece is this yellow piece right here, and that corresponds to this gold piece here. And I use the same yellow for my matting of my photos. And in both pieces, they were distressed. So I left them distressed and did not ink them. I used an ink that's not exactly brown, not exactly gray. It's called Old Road, and it's a one of the little wedge inks. And I inked all of these edges, and I inked around the photos to give them that line. So that's something I did with the ink. I used if you go back to refer to this, there is an independent star with that has an outline, and here's a star inside a circle. So for the star inside the circle, I punched a circle out of blue glitter paper, mounted it on white cardstock, fussy cut around that to give it the border, and then I just glued a white star, punched a star out of white, and glued it on there. I could have punched the star on the blue piece and then had the white showing through, and I honestly I can't tell you why I didn't do it that way. The other cluster with the star here, I die cut the star using this die, and I mounted it on the blue glitter on white cardstock and fussy cut around it to give it the border. I did stapled on a word stitch. We'll talk about these embellishment clusters later. So I've used this little star punch, this star die, the arrow die, and this circle die. And I'm going to put those aside now. I also, for the cluster at the bottom that has the, let me see if I can get it here. I've got little bits and pieces of things. The cluster at the bottom, that has the arrow with the word yes on it in there. I used a hexagon punch and punched the hexagon. I have the other part of the hexagon there, and that's going to kind of placed right in there. It's great when you can compare sizes like that. So that's what the hex punch was for. I used this heart actually is the exact same shape and the same size as the one on the sketch, so I was lucky there. And just a note, this is actually the very first punch I ever purchased. It's probably goes back to 2011 maybe. So it's a great punch. I haven't done much to keep it alive, but it's a faithful servant. Okay, so that also I noticed there were some rounded corners on some of the sheets, so I rounded those with my corner rounder. I'm going to put that away. I used my stapler to staple together the embellishment clusters. I saw staples. There's one, a digital staple here, and I think there's one somewhere else up here, maybe holding this on. So I stapled it there, but I also stapled where it was practical to staple, just where I would normally staple if I'm just doing it, if I'm freewheeling it. Okay, so we'll put the stapler away. And what I have left here is my, where I'm going to mix up my mixed media. And my first thing, as I said, is to use some matte medium. I'm using Jane Davenport matte medium. It's almost gone, but it's very nice and fluid, let's say. So it does a good job of adhering things and kind of, well, the first thing I do when doing this sort of thing is to do the top side, and I'm getting it all over. I'm allowing it to get all over because it doesn't matter if it tears. It kind of, it adds to the look. So here I'm kind of obscuring the colors a bit, but they will show through. You'll get the kind of the essence of them. Okay, that's down. These folded pieces, I've gone back and forth in my mind about whether and when I'm going to do these, or when I'm going to do these. So I'm going to lay them aside for now and say that I'm not doing them at the moment. Let me get my photos out of the way of my mixed media goings on over here, my mixed media shenanigans. The next thing I notice in there's kind of a, this is like a piece of tissue paper back behind it all, and I'm not using that tissue paper there because I've used this long piece. And in this case, the tissue paper is kind of taking the place of the stamping that I saw. So we'll see if there's enough there, and we'll see if we need anything else. And at the moment, I'm going to say I don't think I'll need it. Let me tell you also the items that are needed in that I need to use in here. This, in addition to replicating the sketch, I need to have craft color, and I think you saw that I have a craft tag there. Labels, and I used labels in my embellishment clusters. Mist, nature, and origami. The origami can be simply folded paper, so my accordion pleated folds here are going to be my origami. nature will be on this sticker sheet. I have some leaves and bits of flowers. Now there's nothing leafy or flowery anywhere on this, so I kind of have to hide them or obscure them in some way. And you'll notice here that there are polka dots on this tag, and my tag has none. I actually drew some on the other side, and I'm not happy with them, so I'm going to use it on the plain side and maybe use some of these stickers in the blue color. There are some of these kind of shiny things. I've also introduced shiny elements because I plan to use a glittery title, and so I have the shiny star, the mercury glass paper for the star, or the heart, and then the blue glitter for the star. So I may add little touches of glitter and mercury glass as layering pieces on here. I may not, but I have them handy in case I decide to. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is right down in this area here, there's some kind of heavy texture that's visible here. I'm going to create a custom color bit here. I've got what I just used here was Distress Collage Medium. That's a Tim Holtz, it's called Vintage, and it adds a nice, well actually I haven't used that. That's not what I did at all. This is Dina Wakley's heavy body acrylic in the color Penny, and it's a copper color, but it's got a lot of gold in it. It's not as red as some copper colors are. So this glass beads medium really gives you lots of texture and dries like glass beads. So it carries some color. Another thing I'm getting ready to do right now, I'm using Mr. Huey's Color Mist. This is going to be my mist requirement. It's in the color gold. It's very comparable and a good replacement for the Heidi Swap Color Shine, which, as I understand, is not going to be available any longer. So I've sprayed a little bit of that on there. I may spray some actually on the page, but I'm going to mix this up. And then I'm going to apply it kind of like this here. It's leaving a lot of texture around, and it's adding what may be too orangey a color, but I'm not gonna worry too much about that. A lot of this will be covered up, but I want the kind of messiness of it to be underneath the less messy elements, let's say. Wipe this off. And I may use another mist. I have this walnut ink that I have used to antique things. It's not spraying, so I will, in that case, do some splatters, a few more splatters than I used before. Okay, just between you and me, I'm not crazy about how this is turning out. So let me try some of the collage medium in this vintage color. There's not a lot in there, so what I'm going to do is squirt the liquid medium, the Jane Davenport matte medium, in there and kind of mix it up and let it pick up some of that color. I'm not getting a lot of pickup here. Let me go to, because it's dried out, and this is going to somewhat obscure it, and it's going to blend those streaks of that walnut ink into the field here. Okay, so this is what it is at the moment, and I'm going to clean it up. This is one of those cases where you say, and most of this is going to be covered up, and you're glad that it is, because this isn't particularly attractive. What I could do, if I hate it later, I'm going to set it aside to dry. You can kind of see the texture that's coming up, and that look of texture is going to increase as we go. But I'm going to set it aside to dry and then assemble the photo cluster. And while it's drying, so let me bring this over. So I'm going to say, if I hate it, I can always add some more of my tissue paper that I have here. So I love this tissue paper, and I hope I don't run out of it anytime soon. Okay, here we go. I did myself a little help here. In order, there's the 4x7 yellow piece, the 3.5 by 6.5 green piece, 6.5 by 4 3/4 blue floral, the 6 3/4 by 3 pink stripe paper. So I'll try to put those together so that the proportions that are showing are like this. So we go with the yellow first, and you can see here that I'll have this side by side. The yellow, the layer over the yellow kind of is a little farther over to the left than to the right, so you've got about this much of a corner showing. So I think that's ready to glue down. And then the next piece we have is the blue floral. The blue floral cuts across that, kind of this much showing, and I'm able to measure that exactly. And with this much up top, and this is something I never ever do. Back in my early days of scrapping, when I saw, the main source of seeing other people's work was I had a subscription to the newsletter at scrapbook.com, and every Friday they sent me information about new products, and there was a link to a gallery, and there were I don't know how many layouts that they showed at that point. And some of those that I really loved and wanted to figure out how they were done, I would actually try to exactly replicate what they had going on. And that was probably 2011. I have not done that since, and I don't like it, and unless Julie Wickens makes me do it again, I won't do it. Again, this replicating any layout this is how my papers are building. So that's what goes under. Okay, we've got this piece which kind of sticks up here, but still does have some space down. Okay, we've got this here. This goes up like that, I guess. Okay, and we've still got some down at the bottom. So I've got this, and you'll notice I'm not using any foam tape or pop dots or just foam strips, because this many layers of paper are going to... Excuse me for that. I had a phone call because I didn't set it to airplane mode. I'm going to try to finish this up. I don't know how to switch it to airplane mode now. I think it's too late. So the other, I forget what I was saying. Oh, I want to make sure some of this is protruding down below the photos. So this goes here. I'm actually going to tuck this in under the pink, even though that's not what they've done on the sketch. And then my photo clusters kind of go here and here. That's perfect. Anyway, I guess what I was saying is the beauties of double-sided photo paper. I printed some and they were too dark, so I went back to the computer and lightened them up. These I may put a little foam behind them, and I'm going to use the foam that I die cut the arrow out of. And let's see, we're going to do this. Okay, let me get this up where you can see it. These are photos taken at our Father's Day outing on Sunday, and I wanted to get a picture of the two dads who were being celebrated and the three kids. So we took several pictures, and most of them had the Atlanta skyline in view, and these do not, because I wanted to get in all the two dads and all the kids. Okay, so building the cluster. This is ready to put on the background, and I've got. Let me see if I can attach the embellishments clusters. Now these I will pop up with foam. But this one here, right where it overlaps the photos, I had to select a photo that could be overlapped there. Ava came out with us for a while, but she got to feeling bad and had to be taken home. So I wanted to have at least one, so she wasn't there for the skyline pictures. And I wanted to have the one picture that she was in. Let's see, I'll kind of tuck this in this way. That's not exactly as it is in the here. It's kind of more at the forefront and overlapping this pink. Let me see if I can do that. See if I like that. In fact, I can cut it shorter and maybe get that done. Let me get that back up in your view there. I have a big problem bringing things close to me because I'm old and I need to see well better. And when I do that, I forget that it's bringing it out of your field of view. I'm going to do something here. This, I cut the arrow out of some paper and cut it out of foam. And just so you know, these papers are all part of my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit. It's my 4th or 5th layout this month with this kit. And these are all papers and embellishments, for the most part, that I that were delivered or that I purchased or that were given to me at the Rediscover Your Stash Secret Not Secret Kit Club retreat in Oak Harbor, Ohio. Let me put a couple pop dots on here just to kind of hold that on better. This overlaps the photo kind of up there where I'm dangerously flirting with covering some of Barrett's freshly permed orange hair in honor of leukemia awareness. Okay, so again, I need to remember I'm not working on my layout, I'm working on the on just the photo cluster. Okay, so that one is there. Now we'll go with this one. And in the example, this overlaps, and I kind of placed, and kind of this falls down below. First of all, I'm not going to use a pop dot for this one because I really want this one to look like it's kind of built up and coming out of. Okay, so let's look at this. It kind of comes out right a little bit to the left of the right hand photo, so kind of like this, and it does extend down below. Okay, I've got this built. There's a bit of black and white over on this side. I thought I'd maybe put that in when I start doing the layout. I've got a little more black and white that I may use under here. We'll kind of see how that works out when I put it down on the background. So this whole cluster I will support with some foam. You can see I've been taking little bits off here. I'll do this. In the in-between layers, I really didn't want to elevate some because some have to support, there'd be different, what do you call it when you're, what is the sign that's out there on the road when you have uneven pavement? So I didn't want uneven pavement. Placing this on here, I'm seeing that I have gotten the texture where I wanted it. Let's look at this. I've got the newsprint tissue there. I am planning to put some more kind of here and some more down here. And we'll see. I need for the arrow not to go off the page. And I also need room for my title. But in the example, the layout actually overlays the title, and so my title is going to be Father's Day, so you're going to be able to understand and relate to what it is. Okay, so let me press this down, and I'm going to press it down. Let me make sure everything's parallel with the edges. Let's see. See, here's an example of that uneven pavement. This arrow is down on the page. Okay, let me do this. And that should stick it to there. Let me wet this with some medium. And I'm hoping that maybe some of the brown, oop, it sprayed. That may be too brown, but you know, we'll just go with it. Do that, and we'll make this the underside. No, that's not going to be the underside. We'll go here and kind of lift this up, insert it under that foam, and let me kind of paste it down. Okay, next I'm going to do some down in this area, and I'll do the underside and I put it right over where I spread things on the other piece. Get a little more brown on there. Let's kind of stick this up here. Okay, and I will finish kind of pasting that down, and we'll see if there are any finishing touches that need to be done there. My next bit of work, I think, will be to clean these so that I don't have medium drawing on my tools. The next thing I'm going to look at is maybe propping up that arrow as I see it now. I should have a pop dot that's small enough to take care of that. Make sure my hands are clean because that area of the layout is white and it isn't distressed, and there are no plans to distress it. So, okay, so here's the tiny pop dot, and peel it maybe. We'll kind of come over here, lift that up, stick the pop dot right at the juncture. The pop dot's white and the paper underneath is white, so even if a tiny corner of it shows, it's not the end of the world, and it actually doesn't look bad. Okay, so that's sticking up there. Let's see. The other thing I was thinking of doing is this black and white, and just kind of sticking it down right there. And to balance it, because that black and white is kind of jarring and different, I love it, but I want to balance it a bit. And I thought I might maybe put it over here in conjunction with the raccoon, the kind of black and white. Seems like it might work there. So let me get some adhesive on it and then see if I can place it so that I have just the right amount showing under this. If I thought about it, maybe the right, I have some black and white twine that might have been good to use on the, it needs to be shorter. There's not enough space under there before I hit the, this is, I am not a good, I may be a good lesson in doing things in the right order. In other words, don't do what I do. Do what I discover I should have done. So let me place that there. I kind of like that, but I want to get it straight. Normally I don't fret over things like that. Now, for right under here in the original, there's the word snapshots, and it's a nice scripty snapshots. And I had thought about using these, one of these things, maybe family or together. Together might be nice because it actually has the pink and the orange. Okay. But there's also this word cherish, and it's in the black script that makes it more like the layout. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to save the together, or should I use that? Those colors just work perfectly. But I'm going to go with cherish because it's the same kind of script, and it really it's all about replicating, not so much about designing my own. I have some more pictures from the same event, so I'm going to do a companion page. I don't do two-page layouts typically, but I have been known to do companion pages. I like doing pages that are meant to be across from one another in the album. Okay, so here I'm going to place this as far over this way as I can and bring it down. And kind of adhere it along the way. It's on vellum, and it's very sticky. And I've got my okay, good. That uneven pavement doesn't show. Okay, I like it. I like that it's at an angle and it's not straight across there. So that decision was made. Now, I'm going to do the title, and I'm going to do the solid first. These are foam pickers, glitter called Escape to Paradise, and they matched one of my very favorite collections of last year. I have a few left. Let's see. I'm going to assume that if I start this here, I'll end kind of up. And don't these letters remind you of Root Beer Float? That may actually be the Root Beer Float font. but in a gold glitter form, meant to go with an updated, I think, a crepe paper collection. 8 here. I'm not precisely measuring this because this particular font has big letters and little letters, and it's not like capitals and I'm kind of placing them more with respect to the edge of the paper, and this one was up a little closer to the edge than the others. Oh, how do I find my... All right, that is a root beer float R. I know. Now this next font I may do off camera because I know from experience that it requires a lot of fussing. And it's an open, I can take the outline, and I haven't decided whether I'm going to do it that way or not. There's a lot of reshaping that has to be done. Okay, got fathers there. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about on these next letters. I'll go with the D. If I take it exactly as it is, it looks like an outline letter. It's foam, and there's an outside and 2 insides. And you can use all of them together like this, or you can take that white part out. So let me do this. I tell you what I'm going to do. I don't have an A, so I'm going to use a V, an upside down V. I'm probably going to, here's an example where it would have been good to measure, and I kind of halfway measured. I should have started the F for Father's Day at the very bottom of the page because these letters are larger than the ones in the, okay, I don't know if you can see what I'm having to do there to put that V together. I'm going to elect to do this off camera, and I'll fix that. I'll move fathers down here. The next thing I'm going to do off camera is, let's first kind of do a check to see if see what I've got going on here, and if it somewhat conforms to the original. I think I've got the papers all sized right. We saw that earlier. I've got I like the mixed media. I wish this weren't so prominent and so orange, so I may go over that with a light brush of gesso, and I don't have any here at my table, so I'll do that off camera. I will write up some journaling here directly on the page. Here, of course, it's typed because they were doing it digitally, and you can do that. I debated whether to do a card and have an actual journaling block and to put it under there, but I think I'd rather write on the page. I'm not going to write a lot. I'll have kind of some personal journaling that may be hidden, and that may show up in another tag right here when I put it in my album. So I think right now I'm going to call this done. I apologize for the fact that the title doesn't look great. I'll publish a copy of the finished layout down there. Let's check and make sure I have all the, oh. I know what I need to do. These stickers, to add the nature element, I want to add these stickers to the tag, and I've got a couple different types of leaves. I've got another one just like that. I can put this, yeah, I think I'll go with the other one that's the same shape, and it'll kind of look like a little crown there. Try to get it at the same angle. Okay, there we go. And then maybe this I can put down as part of this cluster. Maybe here. Okay, and there may be another. One of my ideas was to use Celebrate as a title, and I decided against that. Okay, there. All right, I think I've got enough nature on there. I may be able to, let me do another leaf kind of over as part of the raccoon cluster. It'll be part of the background there. Okay, so sorry about that. This is a finishing up. Got another phone call there, and I was hoping I could make it through without that happening. So my check, I've got craft, I've got labels, I've got mist, I've got nature in the leaves and flower, and I've got origami in the folded paper. So I've satisfied that, and I've killed a lot of stuff from my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit. So that's the end of it. Thank you. Appreciate your patience. Thanks for watching.